Okay, so guys, next we are going to be talking about more listening, but we're actually going to be going over why listening is important and the four different types of listening that you will be encountering throughout this class and throughout your other classes, and how this is going to be able to relate to you in your academic career, but not just your academic career, but also in life. So uh, don't get me wrong, like listening is very very important, and we think like we definitely need to understand like how listening does affect us and how listening is a portion of our lives. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible. So I did make some PowerPoint slides that I will be posting on Blackboard for you guys as soon as the video is up. But I also want you guys to make sure that you're paying attention and like definitely reflecting on this in your own life and figuring out like why listening is important to you and to the people around you as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start with why is listening important. All right, so okay, so here, and this is the Blackboard slide or the PowerPoint slides that I told you about, and I'm going to post these on Blackboard as I said. So first and foremost, why is listening important, right? So why is listening important? Listening is important because without listening, there's a greater chance that we can die. So now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of deaf people out there who navigate throughout life very, very easily, and they can do it with like great ease, and that's great, and that's really great for them. But that those are skills that they have had to learn, right? For us, listening when we're out and about, like when we hear something, like if someone is running behind us, like we have a fight or flight response, and so we either like turn around and we're ready to fight, or we start running and we're out, right? There's a video on TikTok where these guys are just like running. He's just like running down the hall, and then like I don't know if they're friends or if he just saw this guy running, and so they started running, and then like a whole bunch of other people started running, and they're all just like running, and it's because they heard someone running and they don't ask questions as to why. They just see someone running, so they all start running, right? That's a fight or flight response because we're listening to them running and they're running full speed. So we want to know like, oh crap, like shit, like we need to get the hell out of here. And so you just start running, right? So that's a response, right? So with listening, if we hear a car coming by, like we're not going to walk across the street in oncoming traffic, right? Because we hear cars coming by. So listening is a portion of our fight or flight response that allows us to stay alive. And when we're not speaking, we're listening 95% of the time. So we're either listening to music if we're walking around, or we are, like just sitting somewhere and just kind of like listening, taking in our surroundings. All of that has like a holistic, like ontological, and ontological is a sense of like the meaning of what you find is important, and it has something to do with like not just healing for us in our soul, but also like to keep us physically well. So for listening, like we keep that and we have listening for us so that essentially we don't die. It is a biological response that we do. And outside of hearing, as we went over before, hearing is just accepting the noise, but listening is interpreting that noise and making sense of it. And like I said, like it's either like we start running because we hear someone running, or like we don't cross the street because we can hear cars coming, right? So essentially that's why listening is important. It keeps us alive. And so next we're going to move on to the four types of listening. And so the four types of listening are appreciative listening, empathetic listening, comprehensive listening, and critical listening. Okay, and I'm going to go over this. I'm actually going to do this in the slideshow because it's a little bit easier. So, as I said, the four types of listening are appreciative listening, there's empathetic listening, comprehensive listening, and then there's critical listening. Okay, and so next we are going to start with appreciative listening. So appreciative listening is defined in your book as listening for pleasure or enjoyment, as when we listen to music, to a comedy routine, or for an entertaining speech, right? And so in our class, like you might actually find some speeches that you are like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Like I didn't know about that. And that's why I try to ask you guys to pick a topic that's relevant within the last 5 years, because I want to hear some new stuff too. Like I do a lot of research, and so a lot of the stuff I hear over and over, and I don't really listen to the media and things like that. Being like a media scholar myself, like we're able to know what is good and what's not good, and so I try not to pay attention to it. But I want to know what you guys think are good as well. So that could be an aspect of appreciative listening is listening to your guys' speeches that are going to be coming up. So a couple more weeks, guys. Keep thinking about that. The narrative speeches. So some examples of appreciative listening, as I said before, it could be like an enjoyable speech, but it also could be music. Like for me, I like lo-fi music. I really dig lo-fi music. I like J-rock and J-pop and K-pop. But I like rap too. My friend Andy actually got me into a lot of rap. He's a hip hop scholar, so he knows all sorts of cool stuff. Um, you know, it just anything that like rejuvenates your soul, right? That's an appreciative listening. So we all have different tastes in music, and so that could be one thing. Another thing could be videos. What like right, like watching YouTube videos. Like I really like watching like cooking videos. Marian Gretzky, she's my favorite. She does a lot of like traditional Thai cooking, and I love Thai food, so it's delicious. And there's a bunch of other ones like Young Pop. Like she makes a bunch of uh, like Korean dishes, and it's just so delicious. As you can probably imagine, like I really love Asian food. It's so good. Um, okay, and so the next one could be like anime, like just sitting and listening to like anime videos. Like that could be anything. It could be like video game characters just like kicking each other's ass, like and just like going at it hard. Or it could be, you know, like um, I don't know. There's like K-pop dramas, or not K-pop, K-dramas that a lot of people are actually into, which you know is interesting to me. I've never actually gotten into it, but that's pretty cool. But it could be all sorts of stuff, right? Um, like I said, it's anything that you can appreciate for yourself. That's like a rejuvenating for like your soul, your mind, your body. That's what appreciative listening is, and it could extend into a wider variety of certain things. So you know, appreciative listening is something that we basically do on a daily basis. In what I think, like driving in your car, you listen to music that you like. So that's one of the types of listening that we will be definitely doing in this class for sure. Next, we're going to be going over empathetic listening, and empathetic listening is defined as listening to provide emotional support for the speaker, as when a psychiatrist listens to a patient, or when we lend a sympathetic ear to our friends. And that should say ear, not eat. Sorry about that, my typo. So some examples of empathetic listening could be being there for your friend, right? Like being there to like, if they're going through a rough time, you know, right now it's a really rough time for a lot of people that we can't actually, you know, like see our friends like side by side. So sometimes we have to do a lot of FaceTime, a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages. You know, even though text messages is something that you have to read, you know, we still have those feelings that come in with that, and that's a part of the empathy of it that we're taking on. Like, oh my gosh, like my best friend just lost her boyfriend, and or they broke up, or my aunt, she has COVID, or something like that. That is like taking time away from your own life to empathize and be with someone else in their feelings and feeling for them like instead of being selfish with your own emotions. You know what I mean? So empathetic listening is something that can be kind of difficult for some, and it can be very easy for others. And sometimes empathetic listening, like empathies or not empathies, um, empathetics, they take on quite a bit of emotions that are not their own, and they do that because they're so loving and open-hearted. So, you know, when we think of empathetic listening, we think of it like listening with our heart and our emotions. That's something that empathetic listening is very in tune with. So some other examples for that would be listening to someone's troubles, as we talked before, and being happy with your friends. Like empathetic listening doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be sad or mad or there's going to be an issue. It could mean that like you're just like your friend got like a really cool job promotion, or your friend got like an award or something like that, or some anything. It could be anything that could be happy or sad or neutral. It's just actually being in the moment with that person and listening with your emotions and your heart. So as I said before, not everybody is able to do empathetic listening, and you know, sometimes that is something that people work on, but it is a one form of listening that we will be doing in our class. Next, we're going to be going over comprehensive listening, and comprehensive listening is defined in your book as listening to understand the message of a speaker, as when we attend a classroom lecture or listen to the directions for finding a friend's house. So some examples of that, of comprehensive listening, would be listening to my lectures. Like, I would really hope that you guys would listen to my lectures. I put a lot of time and effort into this for you guys, um, that I want to make it very cohesive, very friendly, very open. As you can see, like, I have Rick there again. Before, like, he was taking a shit and now he's washing his hands. So I try to put a lot of like thought and effort into my videos for you guys, because I want you guys to be happy, and I want you guys to be able to learn something. As I said before, if you walk out of my class not learning anything, then I didn't do my job, and that's not good. And I want you guys to be in the most friendly and open environment that you possibly can be. So I would hope that you would listen to my lectures, and that would be a form of comprehensive listening. There's also like listening to your parents, right? So I'm a Latino, so when my parents are like, que le limpie la cocina, or like su baño, or whatever, like go clean the kitchen or go clean the bathroom, like then I listen, like I do what they say, because they're kind of scary sometimes. So, but I think that's everybody's parents. But that is taking directions, right? Same thing. It's like listening to your boss when your boss tells you, hey, like, I need you to be on the cash register at like, if you work at a supermarket, I need you to be on the cash register where we have a lot of people today, like, or hey, like, there's a spill here, can you help me clean this up? Or trying, like, to be a part, listen to that direction from your boss, so that like you can give back to like the work environment that you're in. And like I said, it's the same thing with my class. Like, I give you guys the lectures so that you guys can take something away with you and help that build on your career, or if you want to go into the job, or if you want to seek higher education, or whatever your goals might be. But I hope that my lectures are giving you something to build on, right? So it's like a training sort of deal. Okay, so the next one that we're going to be going over is critical listening. This is the last form of listening that we're going to go over in our class. So critical listening is defined in the book as listening to evaluate a message for a purpose of accepting or rejecting it, as when we listen to a sales pitch of a car salesperson or the campaign speech of a political candidate. Okay, and so some examples of critical listening are the McDonald's drive-through. and I put this in here for you guys because I always, like, anytime I go and get fast food, which I try not to do that as much, but like anytime I would go and get fast food, right? Like, they always say like, oh, well, you want to upgrade for a large for 25 cents more, right? That would be critical listening in that sense, right? So like, you get a meal and then like you're just like, oh, I just want the regular. Like, oh, well, you can get a large for 25 cents more. And it's like, well, okay, like that's a large fry at McDonald's. Like, their fries are bomb, like they kick in. So so that is a sense of critical listening, right? So they're giving us an offer and we're deciding whether or not we want to take that offer or not. If the cost is more than cost benefit analysis, right? So if the cost is more than the benefit, we're not going to do that, right? Cost being like it's taking away from us, like in the McDonald's drive-thru, it'd be like spending more money, but the benefit would be, instead of getting a regular size, now I have a large fry and a large Coke that I can either eat for myself or that I can share with others, right? So it's the cost benefit analysis that we're really looking for in critical listening. BLM movements, critical listening, that's a huge one right now. The BLM movements, I fully support that. I try not to get so political in my class, but BLM movements, you have to support them, man. Like, the cost benefit analysis, right? Black Lives Matter. Black lives are being killed by police every day. Cost benefit from that would be defunding the police and recognizing that this is actually happening. So the cost is people are dying, and the benefit would be, let's have that not die anymore, and let's acknowledge what the hell is going on in the country, and moving forward and trying to create more rights for everyone, and have everyone to be equal and acknowledge what is going on. So that is a thing. Voting rights, right? So voting rights is a critical listening thing. They're trying to get rid of like mail-in ballots. I don't see why they would want to do that. I'm a mail-in voter. I've been a mail-in voter for, it's been 10 years. So, and I've always had my vote counted for. I don't know why they would say that would be something that's a thing, but that is a critical listening example right there, because there's a large debate about it, and we need to decide whether or not, like, is voting rights through mail as equal as going to a voting site, or is it the same? Or what's the difference, right? We need to see the costs and the benefit and make an analysis of that. And so that's what critical listening is really about. It's really about taking a look at the cost benefit analysis of everything and deciding on whether or not we're going to either go with it or not go with it. You know what I mean? So from here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And so from here, guys, I am actually going to be posing a couple of questions for you. It's going to be multiple choice, and then I'm going to put a discussion post on this video as well. And I just kind of want to get your take on what form of listening you feel is the best one, or the one that you acknowledge the most, or the one that you may be not so clear on the most. And I want you to give me a little explanation as to why and how that might actually happen within your own thinking. You know, like I just want to know, like, okay, like critical listening, I understand critical listening because of the political factor, but empathetic listening, like I don't really feel like I actually do that. And I want you to explain why. And then, like, you know, kind of look through your peers and see what they have to say about everything as well. But I am going to give you a couple of multiple choice questions about listening and like why is listening important. I'm going to do a couple of questions on the 4 different types of listening. And yeah, and then we're going to move on to the very last video on listening. Okay, sorry guys, I know this is like a 4-parter. I promise not to make these as long as this one is, but this is actually quite a bit of a material that we have to go through. So yeah, so I'm going to pose those questions at the end of the video, and then there's going to be a discussion post, and then we're going to move on to the next one, and then we will be done for this week. All right, guys? Okay, so I will see you in the next video.